Brother Harvest Storytime Joseph. The pit wasn't the destination. Brother Harvest Shalom family, Brother Harvest here, and welcome back to another Brother Harvest Storytime. Tonight I want to tell you about a young man named Joseph. And Joseph's story teaches us something powerful. Just because you're in a difficult season doesn't mean God has forgotten about you. Sometimes the pit is part of the journey to the palace. Joseph was one of 12 sons. His father Jacob loved him dearly. One day his father gave Joseph a special coat, a beautiful coat that showed how much he loved him. But Joseph's brothers became jealous, and that jealousy grew. Joseph also had dreams that showed that one day he would be placed in a position of authority. Joseph was young, and when he told his brothers about those dreams, they didn't celebrate him. They became even more angry. One day, Joseph's father sent him out to check on his brothers while they were tending the flocks. When the brothers saw Joseph coming from a distance, they said, "Here comes that dreamer." And instead of welcoming their brother, they made a terrible plan. They grabbed Joseph, they took away his special coat, and they threw him down into a pit. Can you imagine that? Joseph hadn't done anything to deserve being thrown into that pit. He was betrayed by his own family. The people who should have protected him were the very people who hurt him. But family, listen carefully. The pit did not cancel the promise. Joseph may not have understood what God was doing, but God could still see Joseph. His brothers eventually pulled him out of the pit, but not to take him home. They sold Joseph to traveling merchants. Joseph was taken far away into Egypt. Think about it. One day he was home with his father. The next day he was a slave in a foreign land. Joseph could have said, "God, where are you?" But scripture shows us something over and over again. God was with Joseph. Joseph ended up working in the house of a powerful Egyptian named Potiphar. And because God was with Joseph, Joseph prospered. Potiphar noticed it. He trusted Joseph and placed him in charge of his household. Things were finally starting to look better. But then trouble came again. Joseph was falsely accused of something he did not do. And because of that false accusation, Joseph was thrown into prison. Now, wait a minute. First the pit, then slavery. Now, prison, somebody listening tonight might understand what that feels like. You say, every time I think things are getting better, something else happens. But here is the lesson. A setback does not mean God has abandoned the plan. Even in prison, Joseph remained faithful. He served, he helped people, and God continued to give Joseph the ability to understand dreams. Joseph interpreted dreams for two men who had worked for Pharaoh. Joseph told one of those men, "When you get back to Pharaoh's house, remember me." The man was released. But he forgot Joseph. And Joseph stayed in prison. Sometimes being forgotten by people hurts. You helped them. You prayed for them. You stood beside them. Then, when they got where they were going, they forgot about you. But family people may forget you. God does not. 2 years later, Pharaoh had troubling dreams. Nobody could explain them. And suddenly, the man who had forgotten Joseph remembered him. He told Pharaoh, "I know someone who can interpret dreams." Joseph was brought out of prison. And Joseph explained Pharaoh's dream. 7 years of abundance were coming to Egypt. But after that, 7 years of severe famine would come. Joseph didn't just explain the problem. He gave Pharaoh wisdom about how to prepare, store up grain during the good years so the nation could survive the difficult years. Pharaoh recognized that God was with Joseph, and in one day, Joseph went from prisoner to ruler. Joseph was placed second in command over all Egypt. Look at God. The young man who had been thrown into a pit was now helping save an entire nation. But the story gets even better. When the famine came, Joseph's brothers traveled to Egypt looking for food. They didn't recognize Joseph, but Joseph recognized them. Now, Joseph had power. He could have gotten revenge. He could have said, now you're going to pay for what you did to me. But Joseph chose forgiveness. Eventually, Joseph revealed himself to his brothers. They were terrified, but Joseph explained that even though they had intended evil against him, God used it for good and used Joseph to help save many lives. Family, that is tonight's harvest lesson. Joseph's brothers saw a pit. God saw a preparation. Potiphar's house looked like a delay. God saw training. Prison looked like rejection. God saw positioning. And when the appointed time came, Joseph stepped into the purpose God had prepared for him. So don't judge your whole story by the chapter you're standing in. You might be in a pit right now. You might feel forgotten. You may have been mistreated. You might have experienced something that simply wasn't fair, but don't give up on God. The pit is not necessarily your destination. Keep your character, keep your faith, keep planting good seed, because you never know what God is preparing on the other side of this season. And remember, Joseph didn't allow what happened to him to change what God was developing inside of him. That's the kind of harvest we want. A harvest of faith, a harvest of patience, a harvest of forgiveness, and a harvest of purpose. Family, I'm Brother Harvest. Remember, plant a seed, grow a harvest, and if God's not in it, we're not doing it. Until next story time, may God bless you, keep you, and guide your steps. Shalom, family.